The day my parents drained my college fund, they didn't even tell me to my face. I found out when my tuition payment bounced, and the financial aid office called to inform me I had exactly 48 hours to come up with $23,000, or I'd be dropped from all my classes. My name is Meredith, and that was 8 years ago. I was 19 then, sitting on the floor of my dorm room, desperately trying to reach my parents, while my roommate Stacy held my hand. When they finally picked up, my father's voice was eerily calm. We had to use it for Wilson. He got in trouble with some people. Bad people. It was for the family. That moment changed everything. I dropped out that semester, moved in with Stacy's family, and worked 3 jobs while taking night classes at community college. Every dollar I earned went toward building a new life, one where I'd never have to depend on anyone again. Now, standing in the hallway of my own apartment building after a long day at work, I'm staring at the 2 people who taught me the true meaning of betrayal. They look older, more desperate, but their eyes still hold that same entitled expectation. Meredith, honey. My mother steps forward, arms outstretched. I take a step back. What are you doing here? My father clears his throat. We need to talk. It's about Wilson. Of course it is. It's always about Wilson. I'm tired. I just worked 12 hours, I say, unlocking my door. Whatever it is, it can wait. It can't. My father's voice hardens. Your brother's in serious trouble. We need money. $80,000. I freeze, key still in the lock. Excuse me. It's not like we're asking for charity, my mother adds quickly. It's family money anyway. The laugh that escapes me isn't pretty. Family money. Like my college fund was family money. That was different. My father steps closer, towering over me like he used to when I was young. Wilson needed help then, and he needs help now. You're his sister. You have savings. We know you do. You always were good with money. Unlike some people, I mutter, finally pushing my door open. Don't you dare take that tone with me, my father growls. After everything we've done for you? Done for me? I spin around. You mean like working overtime at the library in high school to save for college? Or maybe you mean stealing those savings to bail out Wilson's gambling debts? We had no choice, my mother's voice cracks. Those men would have hurt him. And what about hurting me? The words come out softer than I intended. Did that ever cross your minds? My father's face reddens. You were always the strong one, the responsible one. Wilson, he needs more help. He's sensitive. Sensitive enough to need $80,000? I raise an eyebrow. What did he do this time? They exchange glances. My mother wrings her hands. We can't say exactly. But it's serious, Meredith. Legal serious. Of course it is. I step inside my apartment, leaving the door open. Come in. They hesitate, probably surprised by my sudden cooperation. 8 years ago, I would have already been writing the check, desperate for their approval. But I'm not that girl anymore. Really? My mother's face lights up. Oh, sweetheart, I knew you'd understand. I want to show you something first, I interrupt, walking to my home office. Wait there. I hear them whispering in my living room as I retrieve the manila envelope I've kept ready for this exact moment. For years, I've known they'd show up again, needing more money, more sacrifices, more of me. What's this? My father demands when I hand him the envelope. Open it. His hands shake slightly as he pulls out the contents. My mother peers over his shoulder, her face paling as she reads. This is ridiculous, he splutters. You can't be serious. Every dollar you took from my college fund, with 8 years of calculated interest, I say calmly. Plus, documented emotional damages and legal fees. The total comes to just over $100,000. Legal fees? My mother's voice rises. What legal fees? I smile, and for the first time, I see fear in their eyes. Did you really think I'd let you walk back into my life without protection? My lawyer drew up those papers months ago. I've just been waiting for you to show up. You ungrateful little... My father starts forward, but I hold up my phone, already recording. I'd think very carefully about your next move, I say quietly. Because if you keep pushing me, the restraining order goes into effect first thing tomorrow morning. The silence that follows is the sweetest sound I've heard in years. My father's face turns an alarming shade of purple as he flips through the pages. This is extortion, he sputters, waving the documents. You can't possibly expect us to pay this. Actually, I can. I move to my kitchen counter, maintaining a safe distance. Every withdrawal is documented. Every date, every amount, even the paperwork you forged to access my account. Forged? My mother's hand flies to her chest. Robert, what is she talking about? I pull out a folder from my desk drawer. Would you like to see the bank records, Mom? How about the signature comparison? I particularly enjoy page 6, where Dad tried to copy my handwriting. You were barely 18, my father snaps. That money was under our control. I was 19, and legally it wasn't. But please, keep talking. My recording app is loving this. A memory flashes. Me at 22, scrubbing toilets at 3 a.m. in an office building. My hands raw from chemicals, tears streaming down my face as I calculated how many more nights it would take to afford next semester's textbooks. Meredith. My mother steps forward, voice honey-sweet. Sweetheart, we know things were difficult back then. But this? She gestures at the papers. This isn't you. You're not vindictive. You're right, I'm not vindictive. I meet her eyes. I'm just done being your ATM. Your brother could go to jail. My father slams the papers down on my coffee table. Is that what you want? To destroy this family? I laugh, and it sounds hollow even to my ears. Destroy the family? Like you destroyed my future? Do you know what I did after you took my money? Oh, here we go. He rolls his eyes. The martyr act. I cleaned offices at night, worked retail on weekends, waited tables between classes. My voice stays steady. I lived on ramen and coffee while Wilson was gambling away thousands. Where did he even get more money to lose after draining my account? They exchange a look that sends warning bells ringing in my head. That's complicated, my mother says carefully. Everything with Wilson is complicated, I reply. But my terms aren't. You pay what you owe me, or I file charges. My father's laugh is ugly. Charges? For what? Financial fraud, identity theft, misappropriation of trust funds. I tick them off on my fingers. My lawyer says we have an airtight case. Should we test that theory? Your lawyer? My mother's voice shakes. You actually consulted a lawyer? Julian Burns. He specializes in financial fraud and family law. Would you like his card? You'd sue your own parents? My father's voice rises dangerously. After everything we sacrificed, you sacrificed nothing. The words explode out of me. You sacrificed me, my education, my future, my trust, all for Wilson's mistakes, and now you're here asking for more? It's different this time, my mother pleads. He's in real trouble. Then he can face real consequences. I walk to my front door and open it. You have 48 hours to start the repayment plan, or I file the lawsuit. And if you show up at my workplace again like you did last week, the restraining order becomes permanent. You knew we were... I have security cameras, Dad, and friends who keep an eye out. Did you think I wouldn't protect myself? He storms toward the door, face contorted with rage. You'll regret this. When Wilson goes to prison, his choices, his consequences. I stand my ground, just like this is your choice right now. My mother lingers, tears welling in her eyes. Please, Meredith, we're family. Family. I shake my head. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't manipulate and guilt and destroy. You taught me that. After they leave, I sink onto my couch, hands shaking as I reach for my phone. I dial a familiar number. How'd it go? Stacy answers on the first ring. They showed up, just like you predicted. And? I did it. Showed them the papers. Stood my ground. I take a deep breath. Wilson's in trouble again. They wanted $80,000. Jesus Christ! Stacy's voice hardens. Tell me you didn't… No. But it's bad this time, Stace. Legal trouble. The way they danced around it, something's really wrong. Not your problem, she says firmly. You gave them their options. Now it's on them. Yeah. I look at the manila envelope on my coffee table. I should call Julian, let him know they've been served. Want me to come over? I've got wine and those cookies you like. I smile, feeling the tension ease slightly. Rain check? I need to process this alone. Okay, but I'm checking on you tomorrow. She pauses. I'm proud of you, Mare. You did the right thing. After we hang up, I stare at the papers scattered across my coffee table. 8 years of pain, reduced to numbers and legal terms. It should feel like victory. Instead, I just feel tired. 3 days later, I'm making coffee when someone knocks. Through the peephole, I see my mother standing alone, clutching her oversized purse like a shield. Meredith? Her voice wavers. Please, can we talk? Just us? I should say no. Instead, I open the door. She walks in, eyes darting around my apartment like she's seeing it for the first time. Stopping at my bookshelf, she picks up a framed photo from my college graduation, the one she and Dad didn't attend. You looked so beautiful that day, she says softly. I always regretted not being there. Did you? I take the photo from her hands. Or did you regret that Wilson's latest crisis kept you away? She flinches. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Mom. I set the photo face down. Why are you here? She sits on my couch, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. Remember when you were little? How you used to help me bake cookies every Sunday? Mom, you were such a good girl, always helping, always understanding. Her eyes fill with tears. Wilson, he needed more attention. He struggled. Stop. I grip my coffee mug tighter. I'm not that little girl anymore. You can't manipulate me with childhood memories. Manipulate? She looks wounded. I'm trying to remind you of who you are. This vindictiveness. These lawyers. This isn't you, sweetheart. No, this is exactly me. The me who had to grow up when her parents betrayed her. It was just money, she whispers. The mug slips from my hands, shattering on the kitchen floor. Coffee spreads like a dark stain across the tiles. Just money? My voice shakes. It was my future, my dreams, my trust in you. And you threw it all away for what? So Wilson could gamble more? Destroy more lives? You don't understand? Then make me understand. I grab paper towels, wiping up coffee to keep my hands busy. What's he done this time? What kind of trouble needs $80,000 to fix? She wrings her hands, looking everywhere but at me. He's gone, Meredith. I freeze. What do you mean, gone? He left the country 2 days ago. She pulls out a tissue, dabbing her eyes. That's why we need the money. To protect ourselves. Protect yourselves from what? There are people, dangerous people. They're saying Wilson took their money. Lots of money. She starts crying in earnest now. They came to our house yesterday, said if we don't pay… My blood runs cold. Are you saying Wilson stole from criminals? She nods miserably. And now he's fled the country, leaving you and Dad to deal with the consequences? Another nod. I grab my phone, scrolling through contacts. You need to call the police. We can't. She jumps up, grabbing my arm. They'll investigate everything. Your father. There are things, documents he signed. Understanding dawns. Dad helped him, didn't he? That's why you're both so desperate. She doesn't answer, but her silence speaks volumes. Get out. My voice is ice. Meredith, please, get out. I yank my arm away. You're not here because you love me. You're here because you need me to clean up your mess again. Well, guess what? I'm done being your safety net. They'll take our house, she sobs. Everything we've worked for. Everything you stole from me, you mean? I open my phone, dialing. Hi, Julian. It's Meredith. I need you to come to my apartment. Now. My mother backs away. What are you doing? Getting ahead of this before it destroys what's left of my life. I look her straight in the eye. I'm filing the lawsuit today. And if any of Wilson's dangerous people show up at my door, I'm calling the FBI. You'd do that? To your own family? Family? I laugh bitterly. A family protects each other. They don't steal, lie, and manipulate. They don't abandon their daughter when she needs them most. She reaches for the door, shoulders slumped. I thought, if I came alone, if we could just talk. You thought wrong. I pick up the broken mug pieces from the floor. Tell Dad I meant what I said. 48 hours to start repayment. Or I file everything. After she leaves, I call Stacy. They crossed a line, I tell her, voice shaking. Wilson's fled the country, left them holding the bag with some very bad people. Holy shit, she breathes. What are you going to do? I look at the face-down photo on my bookshelf, remembering that girl who graduated despite everything they did to stop her. I'm going to make them face consequences, I say. Real ones this time. Want backup? Always. I take a deep breath. And Stacy? Thank you for being the family I chose. Always, she echoes. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't start the revenge plotting without me. For the first time today, I smile. Julian's office smells like leather and coffee. He spreads documents across his desk while Stacy and I sit across from him, watching as he pieces together my parents' financial maze. Something's not adding up, he mutters, tapping his pen against a bank statement. The withdrawals from your college fund total $93,000, but Wilson's documented gambling debts were only $50,000. I lean forward. What are you saying? I'm saying there's $43,000 unaccounted for. He slides a paper toward me. Look at these transactions. They continued months after Wilson supposedly paid off his debts. Stacy points to a series of numbers. These withdrawals are weird too. Always the same amount, same day of the month. Like payments, I whisper. But to whom? Julian pulls up his computer screen. Your parents refinanced their house around the same time. Took out a massive loan against the equity. He frowns. And there's something else. The loan officer's signature. I've seen it before. Where? On documents from 3 other cases I've handled, all involving suspicious loans, all connected to a private lending company called Apex Financial. My stomach drops. You think Wilson was involved with them? I think, Julian says carefully, your brother might have been doing more than gambling. These patterns suggest money laundering. Stacy grabs my hand. Keep going, I tell Julian. He pulls out more papers. The timing of the withdrawals from your account, the house refinancing, the regular payments. It fits a pattern we see with organized crime. They use legitimate businesses and family accounts to clean dirty money. And my college fund? What was that really for? Initial buy-in, maybe. Or covering losses when something went wrong. He looks at me seriously. Your parents might not have just been enabling Wilson's gambling. They might have been helping him commit serious financial crimes. My head spins. That's why they're so desperate now, why they need exactly 80,000. Probably a payment they owe. Julian nods. And with Wilson gone, they're on the hook for it. I stand up, pacing. What do? We document everything, build our case. He starts organizing papers. But Meredith, if this goes where I think it's going, we're talking federal crimes. Are you prepared for that? You mean, am I prepared to turn in my own family? He nods. I think about my mother's tears, my father's rage, years of manipulation and theft. They made their choices. Now they can face their consequences. I'll need bank records going back 10 years, Julian says. And any communications you have with Wilson about money. I saved everything, I tell him. Every text, every email. I knew someday you'd need proof, Stacy finishes softly. Julian hands me a USB drive. Put everything on here. And Meredith? Be careful. If I'm right about Apex Financial, these aren't people you want attention from. Back at my apartment, Stacy helps me dig through old emails while I forward texts to Julian. Look at this, she says suddenly, pointing at her screen. An email from Wilson 3 years ago. He's asking you to invest in a business opportunity. I lean over. I remember that. He wanted me to put up 20,000 for some import-export company. Read the company name. My blood freezes. Apex Trading Partners. He was trying to rope you in, Stacy says quietly. Make you complicit. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. My hands shake as I read it. Family business should stay in the family. Back off, little sister. Stacy reads over my shoulder. That's it. I'm calling the police. No. I forward the text to Julian. We do this right. Build the case. Get everything documented. And then, I think about that scared 19-year-old girl, crying in the financial aid office. About years of working multiple jobs, of rebuilding my life from scratch while my family helped Wilson destroy his. And then we bring it all down. Every last lie, every scheme, every crime they helped cover up. I start typing a response to Julian. They want to talk about family money. Let's show them exactly what happens when family business comes to light. Stacy hugs me tight. You're the strongest person I know, you realize that? I lean into her embrace, watching my screen as Julian's response comes through. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Bringing in a federal contact. Time to go nuclear. Not strong, I tell Stacy. Just done being a victim. My phone buzzes again. Another unknown number. Your parents owe us money. Don't make their problem your problem. I block the number, hands steady now. They think threats will make me back down, make me fold like that obedient daughter they used to know. They have no idea who I've become. Are you sure about this? Stacy asks as we pull up to the coffee shop. Meeting Wilson's ex could be dangerous. Chloe agreed to talk, I say, scanning the parking lot. She might be the only person who knows what Wilson was really doing. Inside, we spot her immediately, blonde hair pulled back, nervously shredding a napkin. She jumps when we approach. You look just like him, she blurts out. Same eyes. I sit across from her. Thanks for meeting us. I shouldn't be here. Her fingers drum against her coffee cup. If certain people find out I'm talking to you, we can protect you, Stacy says, sliding over a business card. My law firm specializes in witness protection cases. Chloe laughs bitterly. You don't know what you're dealing with. Wilson, he wasn't just gambling. The whole thing was a front. A front for what? She leans forward, voice dropping. He worked for Apex. Started as a recruiter, finding desperate people willing to take out loans. But then he got promoted. To what? Collections. She shivers. He'd brag about it when he was drunk. How they'd use family pressure points. Kids' college funds, parents' retirement accounts, anything they could leverage. My coffee turns sour in my stomach. The money from my college fund probably went straight to Apex. She pulls out her phone, scrolling through photos. Look at this. Wilson sent it to me last year, showing off his business success. The image shows Wilson in an expensive suit, standing next to a sleek car. But it's the building behind him that catches my eye. Apex Financial's logo clearly visible. He said your parents were in on it, Chloe continues. Your dad helped process loan applications, made everything look legitimate. Your mom, she handled the cash deposits. They were laundering money, I whisper. Among other things. She glances around nervously. Wilson kept records, said it was his insurance policy. He stored everything on an encrypted drive. Stacy leans forward. Do you know where it is? In a safety deposit box. First National Bank, downtown branch. Chloe's hands shake as she writes down a number. Box 247. He gave me the key before he disappeared. Why? I ask. Because I threatened to go to the FBI. She pulls a small key from her purse. He thought giving me this would keep me quiet, make me complicit. I stare at the key. Why are you helping us now? Because they killed my brother. Her voice cracks. He couldn't pay back his loan. 3 days later, his car went off a bridge. Police called it an accident, but... I'm so sorry, I whisper. Take the key. She slides it across the table. But be careful. That drive, it doesn't just implicate Wilson. It names everyone involved with Apex, including your parents. My phone buzzes. A text from Julian. Federal agents want to meet, tomorrow morning. Chloe, Stacy says gently, would you be willing to make a statement to federal investigators? She pales. I can't. They'd know it was me. We can protect you, I promise. My lawyer, the FBI. They can help. Like they helped my brother? She stands abruptly. I've told you what I know. The drive has everything else. Just promise me one thing? What? Make them pay. All of them. She grabs her purse. And Meredith? Watch your back. Wilson always said the most dangerous people at Apex weren't the ones you could see. After she leaves, Stacy and I sit in stunned silence. We need to get to that safety deposit box, Stacy finally says. First thing tomorrow. I clutch the key. Before anyone realizes Chloe talked to us. My phone buzzes again, this time a message from my mother. Your father knows you're digging. Please stop. You don't understand what's at stake. Another text follows. We did everything for this family. Don't destroy it. Family, I scoff, showing Stacy the messages. They helped Wilson steal from desperate people. They're criminals. And now we can prove it. Stacy squeezes my hand. Are you ready for what comes next? I think about Chloe's brother, about all the other victims of Apex's schemes, about my own stolen future, turned into blood money for criminals. They chose this path, I say, pocketing the safety deposit box key. They chose Wilson's crimes over their daughter's education. Now they can choose between facing justice or facing Apex. And Wilson, he ran away and left them holding the bag. I stand up, suddenly energized. Let's see how he likes it when his insurance policy burns down everything he built. Outside, I spot a black car idling across the street. The driver watches us through tinted windows. Don't look, I tell Stacy, but I think we're being followed. Julian's office? She asks quietly. I nod. Keys ready. Time to go nuclear. The safety deposit box key feels heavy in my pocket as Julian reviews the surveillance footage from my building's security cameras. On screen, my father paces outside my door, pounding and shouting. This is perfect, Julian says, pausing the video. Clear intimidation. We can add witness harassment to the charges. He looks desperate, I murmur, watching my father's rage-contorted face. He should be. Julian pulls up some documents. I did more digging into those loan applications. Your father's signature appears on over 30 fraudulent documents. Each one carries a potential 10-year sentence. My phone buzzes. Another text from my mother. He's drinking again. Please call us. Please. Don't respond, Julian warns. Everything goes through me now. Speaking of which... He slides a document across his desk. The federal agents are ready to move on Apex, but they need your statement first. A knock at the door makes us all jump. Julian's assistant pokes her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's a woman here insisting on seeing Meredith. Says she's from the bank. My blood runs cold. First National? Yes. She says it's about a safety deposit box. Julian and I exchange looks. How did they know? Someone's watching us, Stacy says quietly. They must have seen Chloe give you the key. Send her in, Julian decides, hitting record on his phone. The bank representative is young, nervous. Ms. Sherman? I'm Amanda from First National. There's been some activity concerning Box 247. What kind of activity? Someone tried to access it this morning. When they couldn't, they became aggressive, threatened our staff. She wrings her hands. We're required to notify box holders of any security concerns. Did this person give a name? Robert, she says. He said he was your father. My laugh sounds hollow. Of course he did. We've contacted police, but... She hesitates. Given the circumstances, we recommend removing your belongings as soon as possible. Julian stands. We'll go now. And Amanda, we'll need copies of all security footage from today. At the bank, 2 security guards escort us to the vault. The box opens with a click, revealing a single USB drive. That's it? Stacy whispers. All this drama for that? Sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest weight, Julian says, carefully bagging the drive. Let's get this somewhere safe. We're halfway to the exit when I hear his voice. Meredith, my father storms across the lobby, face purple with rage. Security moves toward him, but he keeps coming. You think you can destroy this family? He shouts. After everything we've done for you? Sir, please step back, a guard warns. Done for me? I turn to face him. You mean like stealing my future? Or helping Wilson run his criminal enterprise? You ungrateful little... He lunges forward, but the guards grab him. You're making a scene, Dad. I keep my voice steady. Just like you did at my apartment. How's that restraining order looking now? Your brother trusted us, he spits. We protected him. And now you're going to destroy everything? No, you destroyed everything. The moment you chose his crimes over your daughter's education. We had no choice. You had every choice. I hold up the USB drive. And now everyone will know exactly what choices you made. His face goes from purple to white. What's on that drive? Everything. I step closer. Every loan, every scheme, every person you and Wilson destroyed. How many families lost their homes because of you, Dad? How many lives did you help ruin? You can't prove... Wilson kept records. I cut him off. His insurance policy, remember? Guess he didn't trust his family as much as you thought. Security starts pulling him toward the exit. He struggles, shouting, You'll regret this. When they come for their money. Let them come. I watch as they drag him out. I'm not afraid of bullies anymore. You taught me that. Outside, Julian hurries us to his car. That display will help our case, but we need to move fast. Once they realize we have the drive, they'll come for it, Stacy finishes. My phone lights up with a message from an unknown number. You have something that belongs to us. Last chance to play nice. They're not going to stop, I say quietly. No, Julian agrees. But neither are we. The FBI is standing by. One word from me, and this all goes public. I think about my father's face when he saw the drive, about my mother's tears and manipulation, about Wilson, running away while leaving everyone else to face his consequences. Do it, I tell Julian. Release everything. Are you sure? Once this starts, I'm sure. I watch the bank disappear in the rearview mirror. They wanted to talk about family money? Let's show them exactly what happens when family secrets come to light. Julian makes the call as we drive away. In the distance, sirens begin to wail. The endgame has begun. The courthouse buzzes with tension as I take my seat beside Julian. Across the aisle, my parents huddle with their lawyer, looking smaller than I've ever seen them. My mother keeps dabbing her eyes with a tissue, while my father stares straight ahead, jaw clenched. Ready? Julian whispers. Before I can answer, the bailiff calls out, "All rise!" The judge enters, a stern-faced woman who wastes no time getting to business. We're here for both criminal charges and civil proceedings. Let's start with the restraining order. My father's lawyer stands. Your Honor, this is a family matter that's gotten out of hand. My clients threatened their daughter at her home and workplace, Julian interrupts, holding up a tablet. We have video evidence of Mr. Roberts' intimidation attempts. The footage plays, my father screaming outside my apartment, his confrontation at the bank. The judge's expression darkens. The restraining order is granted, she announces. Now, regarding the criminal charges. My mother breaks into loud sobs. Please, Meredith, don't do this to us. Mrs. Sherman, the judge warns, control yourself or leave my courtroom. Julian presents the USB drive's contents. Spreadsheets, emails, loan documents, all meticulously organized by Wilson. The evidence is damning. Years of fraud, money laundering, and extortion, all flowing through Apex Financial. Your Honor, Julian says, my client's college fund wasn't just stolen. It was used to finance criminal activities. The defendants knowingly participated in. The courtroom doors burst open. Everyone turns to see two FBI agents escorting a familiar figure. Wilson. He's handcuffed, his designer suit wrinkled, his face unshaven. Our eyes meet, and he has the audacity to wink. Sorry we're late, Your Honor, one agent announces. Mr. Sherman was apprehended trying to cross the Canadian border. My mother jumps up. Wilson! Oh, thank God! Sit down, the judge orders. Mr. Sherman, I understand you wish to make a statement. Wilson steps forward, smirking. Actually, Your Honor, I have a deal with the federal prosecutors. Full immunity in exchange for my testimony against Apex's leadership. You rat! My father explodes. After everything we did to protect you. Order! The judge slams her gavel. Sorry, Dad, Wilson shrugs. Business is business. Should have taught me better family values. Julian stands. Your Honor, regardless of Mr. Wilson's deal with federal authorities, my client's civil suit stands. The theft of her college fund was all their idea, Wilson interrupts, pointing at our parents. They suggested using Meredith's money to buy into Apex. Said she'd never know. My mother wails. My father lunges toward Wilson, but court officers restrain him. I've heard enough, the judge declares. On the civil matter, I'm ruling in favor of the plaintiff. The defendants will pay restitution of $93,000 plus interest, along with legal fees and emotional damages. Total judgment, $157,000. She turns to my parents. As for the criminal charges of fraud and money laundering, this court lacks jurisdiction. Federal agents, the FBI agents step forward. Robert and Sylvia Sherman, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. As they're handcuffed, my mother breaks down completely. Meredith, please, don't let them take us. You did this to yourselves, I say quietly. Every choice, every lie, every time you chose Wilson over me. Wilson chuckles. Always so dramatic, little sister. But hey, at least you got your money back. This was never about money. I stand facing him. This was about justice. For me, for Chloe's brother, for every family you and Apex destroyed. Speaking of Apex, Julian interjects, federal agents are raiding their offices as we speak. Your insurance policy proved very useful, Wilson. Wilson's smirk falters. The judge gavels one final time. Court is adjourned. Remove the defendants. As they're led away, my father turns back. You've killed us. When Apex's people find out, they already know. I cut him off. And they're too busy being arrested to worry about revenge. Outside the courthouse, Stacy waits with coffee and open arms. I collapse into her embrace, finally letting tears fall. It's over, she whispers. Not quite. I wipe my eyes, watching my family being loaded into separate police vehicles. The federal trials are next. But you won, she insists. You got justice. Julian joins us, holding more papers. The bank accounts are frozen, but once the assets are released, you'll get your restitution. Plus, the feds might have witness protection for your parents. Not my problem anymore, I say firmly. They made their choices. Now they can live with them. As we walk away, my phone buzzes one last time, a text from Wilson. Well played, sis. But remember, karma works both ways. I delete it without responding. He's right about one thing. Karma does work both ways. And today, it worked in my favor. My apartment feels different tonight. Quieter, somehow. I pour a glass of wine and settle on the couch, staring at the stack of newspapers on my coffee table. The headlines scream about Apex Financial's collapse, about dozens of arrests, about millions in stolen money recovered. My phone rings. Julian. Just got word, he says without preamble. Your parents took a plea deal, 5 years each, reduced from 15. And Wilson, witness protection. He'll testify against Apex's leadership next month. He pauses. Are you okay? I search for the right word. Free. After we hang up, I open the manila envelope that started everything. The documents inside tell a story of betrayal, of stolen dreams, of justice finally served. But they're just papers now, not weapons. A knock at the door makes me tense until I hear Stacy's voice. Pizza delivery for the warrior princess. She bustles in with food and more wine, plopping down beside me. What's all this? Evidence, bank statements, court documents. I shuffle through them, trying to decide what to do with them. Burn them, she suggests around a mouthful of pizza. Like in those revenge movies where the hero dramatically tosses everything into a fire. I don't have a fireplace. Details. She grabs the papers. But seriously, why keep them? It's over. You won. Did I? I take another sip of wine. My parents are going to prison. Wilson's in witness protection. The family's destroyed. The family was destroyed long ago, she says softly. The moment they chose Wilson's crimes over your future. My phone buzzes. A text from Chloe. They arrested the men who killed my brother. Thank you. Another message follows. Your parents' testimony helped crack the case. See? Stacy points at my phone. Something good came from all this. Justice isn't just about revenge. I never wanted revenge, I realize. I wanted accountability. I wanted them to face consequences for once in their lives. And they did. She raises her glass. To karma. To karma, I echo, but my voice catches. Stacy sets down her wine. Talk to me. I keep thinking about that girl I was. The one who cried over financial aid rejections. Who cleaned offices at night and lived on ramen. I pick up an old bank statement. She thought she was alone. She wasn't alone. Stacy squeezes my hand. She had me, and now look at her, taking down criminal enterprises, saving other families from fraud, being a total badass. I laughed despite myself. I couldn't have done it without you. Or Julian. Speaking of Julian, she wiggles her eyebrows. He's kind of cute when he's not being all lawyer serious. Stop it. I throw a pizza crust at her. He's just my attorney. Who called you 3 times today to check in? Before I can respond, my doorbell rings. We both freeze. Through the peephole, I see Julian holding a file and looking nervous. Stacy squeals quietly. I'll use the back door, she whispers, gathering her things. Call me later. Julian seems surprised when I open the door. Sorry to come by so late. I had some papers for you to sign and... He spots the wine and pizza. Oh, you have company. Had company. Stacy just left. I wave him in. What papers? Final settlement documents. And... He pulls out an envelope. This came to my office for you. Inside is a letter from my mother, her handwriting shaky. Meredith, I'm sorry. Not for getting caught, but for failing you. For choosing Wilson's schemes over your dreams. For not being the mother you deserved. I can't undo the past, but I testified to give you the justice you fought for. It's not enough, I know. Nothing ever will be. Love, Mum. Are you okay? Julian asks gently. I fold the letter carefully. I will be. I look at the scattered papers on my coffee table. Help me clean this up? Together, we sort through years of evidence, organizing everything into a single folder labeled Closed. What will you do now? He asks. Live. I close the folder. Build something new. Maybe help other families avoid what mine did. I could use a consultant, he offers. Someone who understands financial fraud from the inside. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a purpose. He smiles. And maybe dinner. I look around my apartment, at the photos of Stacy and me, at my hard-earned degrees on the wall, at the folder containing my family's downfall. Dinner sounds good, I say. But first, I pick up my mother's letter, hold it over a candle, and watch it burn. Sometimes, I tell Julian, karma needs a little push, and I will never apologize for being the one who gave it. He hands me my wine glass. To new beginnings? To justice, I correct him, and to finally being free.
Today, we say our final goodbye to Ryan, my beloved son who passed away. My heart aches even more because my husband, Mike, didn't even show up to his funeral. Frustrated and heartbroken, I decided to call him. His voice on the other end of the line was cheerful, a sharp contrast to my grief. I'm in Hawaii for my parents' 70th anniversary, he said, oblivious to the pain in my voice. When I told my mother, she was initially stunned, but her shock quickly turned into anger. What, they're in Hawaii? She exclaimed, her face reddening. Without hesitation, she resolved to confront Mike and his parents. I'm Emily, a 40-year-old office worker. Mike and I have been married for 10 years and share one child, our son, Ryan. For the past 2 years, Ryan has been fighting leukemia, a battle that has kept him hospitalized. Despite missing most of his early school days, his classmates would visit him, their presence bringing him joy. Ryan's resilience inspired us all, and his determination gave me strength. My parents were always there for Ryan, visiting him daily. My mom would often say how she looked forward to the day when Ryan could enjoy his favorite foods again. My dad, though diagnosed with dementia a few years ago, also made frequent visits. One day, mistaking me for a nurse, he said, "Thank you for taking care of my grandson." His words were bittersweet, though his memory of me faltered. His concern for Ryan remained unwavering. Ryan, wise beyond his years, understood his grandpa's condition and would kindly play along whenever my dad said something odd. Their bond was heartwarming, a sharp contrast to Ryan's relationship with his father. "Can't you visit Ryan sometimes? Don't you care about what he's going through?" I once asked Mike, desperate for his support. His response crushed me. "Ryan doesn't like me, so it's better if I stay away. Besides, I'm really busy." It was true that Ryan and Mike didn't get along. Mike had never been involved in Ryan's care, not even when he was a baby. Ryan, understandably, grew distant from his father. Whenever Mike had free time, he chose to spend it with his own parents, who also showed little interest in their grandson's health. "How can he be so heartless?" my mom said, her frustration evident. "And his parents, do they not care about Ryan at all?" I replied, half-jokingly, "Maybe I married the wrong person." I had fallen for Mike's kindness when we were dating, but he had become cold and indifferent to both me and Ryan. "If I'd known he was like this, I would never have introduced him to you," my mom said, regret coloring her voice. Mike and I had met through my uncle, who was friends with Mike's father. At the time, I wasn't seeing anyone, so I agreed to meet Mike. He seemed kind, and we hit it off. Before I knew it, we were dating seriously and eventually got married, but things changed after the wedding. Mike's parents, who had been warm and welcoming before, became controlling. My mother-in-law, who once greeted me with smiles, turned harsh. "You're part of this family now, Emily, and you'll do as I say. If not, we'll ensure you get a proper divorce," she once told me coldly. As I sit here now, grieving for Ryan, I can't help but wonder if I made a mistake trusting Mike and his family. I initially thought my father-in-law was a quiet man, but over time, his true colors began to show. He often made insulting remarks, saying things like, "We only let you marry Mike because the head of our family introduced you. Otherwise, there's no way we would have let someone like you marry our son." At first, I didn't understand his disdain. My uncle, who runs a real estate company, had introduced me to Mike. Apparently, during the introduction, my uncle mentioned that I came from a wealthy family. This led my father-in-law to assume that my father owned substantial properties. That assumption fueled his condescending attitude. I hadn't heard any of this from my father or uncle, so I initially believed my father-in-law's comments. After Mike and I got married, we moved into the house where my maternal grandparents had lived. They had passed away, and the house had been empty for some time. My parents planned to rent it out to prevent it from deteriorating, but when Mike found out about the house, he pleaded with my parents. "I promise we'll take good care of it, so please let us live there," he said. "It's close to her family, too, so we can help look after them." The arrangement made sense. The house was near both our families, which would allow us to keep an eye on our parents. However, having Mike's parents so close quickly became a burden. Mike would often invite his parents over and start bragging, saying things like, "Our house is so new, you must be jealous. It's so much bigger, maybe even twice the size of yours." While his father seemed irritated by the bragging, his mother would smile and say, "We could live here together. It might be old, but it's better than our place." After one such visit, I asked Mike directly, "Are you planning to have your parents move in with us? This isn't even your house." He laughed it off, claiming it was just a joke, but his mother's behavior suggested otherwise. Not long after, his parents began visiting frequently, inspecting the house as if they were preparing to move in. "Living here would be better than our poor house," my father-in-law muttered one day. "At least there's no rent in this dump." I was fuming when he called the house a dump, but my mother-in-law's actions were even worse. She ignored me completely while picking out a room for herself. When Mike didn't speak up, I decided to set the record straight. "We're borrowing this house from my parents. My grandparents used to live here, so of course, it's a bit old," I explained. My in-laws looked surprised, but my father-in-law quickly retorted, "That's why it's in such poor condition." His tone was dismissive, and I thought the house was far better than where they lived. My mother-in-law, however, accused me of lying. "I trust my son more than you," she said. Her disbelief didn't change the facts, so I let the matter drop. Still, I was uneasy, worried they might push their way into moving in. That fear subsided when I discovered I was pregnant. The talk of them moving in abruptly stopped. Perhaps they realized that living with us would mean helping care for the baby. One day, I overheard my mother-in-law say, "Emily's parents should take care of the baby since they live nearby." "I'm not doing it." I hadn't even asked for her help, but her comment stung. It was hard to fathom how she could be so indifferent about her first grandchild. When I told my mom about it, she just laughed. "Leave the babysitting to me," she said. "You don't need to ask someone who doesn't want to care for a sweet grandchild." She was right, and I decided to rely on my parents once the baby was born. When my son was born, my parents were overjoyed, but my in-laws only visited once. Even Mike's reaction was underwhelming. He didn't seem moved by the birth of our son, which was deeply disappointing. Don't worry, my mom said, trying to reassure me. Once the baby grows a little, Mike will feel more like a father. But as time went on, Mike showed no interest in our child. When our son turned 5, he fell ill. After several tests, the doctors diagnosed him with pediatric cancer. I was devastated, expecting Mike to support me through this unimaginable ordeal. Instead, he coldly said, "You'll have to cover the medical expenses yourself." "It's not my problem." His words broke me, leaving me to shoulder the weight of our son's illness and medical care alone. I was furious at my husband's attitude as a father. His lack of empathy was infuriating, but his mother's words cut even deeper. "It's because Emily passed on her genes that Ryan has cancer. None of our relatives have anything like that, so it must be her fault," she sneered. Hearing this, my father immediately stood up for me. "Don't you care about Ryan? We'll take care of him ourselves." "You can do whatever you want," he said, his voice firm and protective. My father's support forced my husband and in-laws to leave quietly. Even though I was already overwhelmed by my son's illness, their cruel remarks made everything harder. My mother, however, encouraged me. "Don't be discouraged. Ryan needs you to stay strong. We'll do everything we can to support you," she assured me. Bolstered by her words, I resolved to focus entirely on my son and not rely on my husband any longer. With my parents' help, I juggled work and Ryan's care. They were retired and dedicated themselves to supporting me, something for which I was endlessly grateful. Despite his diagnosis, Ryan's condition initially improved, and he managed to live almost like any other child. However, my husband doubted the seriousness of Ryan's illness. "Is Ryan really sick, or are you just trying to fool me?" he questioned one day, watching Ryan play happily. I ignored his baseless accusations. Arguing with him felt pointless. Over time, my husband spent less and less time at home, retreating to his parents' house. Oddly, his absence made things easier for me, as he brought nothing but complaints. My parents stepped in to fill the gap, taking turns helping me care for Ryan. Meanwhile, my husband seemed increasingly uninterested in our son's life. He only returned to the house more frequently after Ryan was hospitalized 2 years ago. "Leave the housework to me," he'd say casually. Then, with a smirk, he'd add, "By the way, why don't you just give me this house?" I ignored his remarks, but it was clear his concern was less about Ryan and more about the property. His plans to move in with his parents loomed over me like a dark cloud. During this time, my father was diagnosed with dementia, and my mother and I were constantly busy managing his care. My husband and in-laws remained oblivious to my father's condition. Even when my father occasionally visited, they seemed unaware. One day, my husband said offhandedly, "Your parents were here earlier. They were just wandering around. Are they not going to help with Ryan?" His relaxed tone infuriated me, but I let it go, too exhausted to explain. As my father's dementia progressed, my uncle began visiting more often. He and my mother frequently held serious discussions. When I asked about it, my mother only gave vague responses. I was worried, but before I could dwell on it, Ryan's condition worsened. Despite preparing myself for this moment, the reality was overwhelming. With my husband unreliable and my father's health declining, I leaned heavily on my mother for support. When I updated my husband about Ryan's deteriorating condition, his response shocked me. "I'm busy right now. Stop calling me. You handle Ryan's situation," he said, dismissively. His lack of parental responsibility pushed me to the brink. I began seriously considering separating from him. Not long after, Ryan passed away. The grief was unbearable. I couldn't bring myself to handle any of the arrangements, but my mother and uncle stepped in, ensuring I could remain by Ryan's side until the very end. Just before the funeral, my uncle began to panic. "Where are Mike and his parents? They can't skip the funeral, can they?" he said, his voice rising in frustration. Seeing his concern, I called my husband. "Where are you?" "It's time to say goodbye to Ryan," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm at a party celebrating my parents' anniversary." "I told you not to call me right now," he replied cheerfully. Hearing his voice, my mother's face turned red with anger. "He's in Hawaii," she exclaimed. My uncle, visibly furious, sprang into action. While I hadn't expected much from my husband, knowing he chose a vacation over our son's funeral filled me with rage. "You knew Ryan was in critical condition and still went on a trip?" I said, my voice shaking. "I pity Ryan for having a father like you." I hung up, tears streaming down my face, as my mother comforted me. "I will never forgive them." "Don't worry, everything will be gone by the time they return from Hawaii," she said cryptically. Though her words confused me, I didn't have the energy to question them. Thanks to my mother and uncle's support, the funeral went smoothly. Afterward, however, I felt lost. My entire life had revolved around Ryan, and now I didn't know how to move forward. "Leave the future to me, Emily. Go back to your parents' house and take it easy," my uncle advised. Taking his advice, I returned home and helped care for my father while taking time off from work. My workplace was understanding and granted me an extended break, which was a relief. Then, one day, my husband called. "Emily, I can't get into the house." "Did you change the locks?" "Changing them without notice is awful," he said, sounding panicked. "I didn't change the locks," I replied calmly. "But I'm planning to end things with you, so don't call me anymore." I hung up, but moments later, he called again, this time more frantic. "My parents' house has been demolished. There's a land for sale sign up." "What's going on?" he shouted. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, cutting him off. "Check with my uncle." When I checked with my uncle, he seemed pleased and invited me to visit my in-laws' family home to see what was happening. Curious and apprehensive, I went as instructed. When I arrived, I found my husband and his parents standing outside, looking utterly stunned. "What's the meaning of this?" my father-in-law demanded. "Our house is gone. Is this because we didn't take you to Hawaii? Did you demolish the house out of spite?" The accusation left me baffled. I could never do something like that. "I was busy grieving my son and arranging his funeral," I retorted, frustrated by the absurdity of her claim. Just then, my uncle and mother arrived. My mother's expression was cold and resolute. "People who didn't even attend their own grandson's funeral have no right to complain," she said, her voice sharp. "You should reflect on your actions." Mike and his parents fell silent, but the silence didn't last. My father-in-law quickly recovered and began ranting. "You can't just demolish the house and sell the land. I'm the owner of that property," he shouted, brandishing a document. His declaration made me pause. Could he be suffering from dementia as well? He proudly showed us a contract bearing my father's signature, claiming that my father had transferred the property to him, but the document looked suspicious, hastily done, and amateurish. To make matters worse, it stated that the property had been given away for free, an impossibility. "This contract isn't valid," I said, my voice steady, "and for the record, my father suffers from dementia and cannot make sound decisions." Mike and his parents insisted the contract was legitimate, claiming they were unaware of my father's condition. "My father is not the owner of this land," my mother interjected firmly. "The property is registered under my name. You must have coerced him into signing this." Her words shocked me, but they clearly unnerved Mike and his family even more. My uncle stepped forward, producing detailed land records and a lease agreement. "This land and building both belong to Emily's mother. You were renting the property from us," he said, his tone stern. "You stopped paying rent months ago, ignored our attempts to meet, and left us no choice but to terminate the lease and put the property up for sale." Mike's parents stared at the documents in stunned silence. "Were we behind on rent?" my father-in-law asked, turning to my mother-in-law. "I thought it was fine since we're related to Emily's uncle," he muttered. Caught off guard, my mother-in-law confessed. "We were planning to trick your father into giving us the land, so we didn't think paying the rent was necessary." Her admission left me furious. They had schemed to exploit my father's condition from the very beginning. As I tried to process this revelation, Mike pulled out another contract, looking regretful. "Is the house we live in also your property? Does this contract mean nothing too?" he asked, his voice tinged with desperation. The document in his hand, much like the first, bore my father's signature. It was clear Mike had created a fake contract, thinking our home belonged to my father as well. "How ridiculous," my mother said, shaking her head. "You tried to deceive us, without even confirming who owned the land. It's absurd." Mike and his parents stood there, trembling with anger and humiliation. Just then, A young woman appeared from behind a nearby building. "When will you pay me back for the travel expenses I covered? And what about the life insurance payout from your son?" she asked. Her appearance left Mike visibly panicked. My uncle smirked. "Even after your son's death, you took your mistress to Hawaii. You truly are shameless," he said. "We've investigated everything." I was stunned but quickly realized that the woman was Mike's mistress. My uncle must have suspected Mike's infidelity and secretly looked into it. Realizing she'd walked into the middle of a volatile situation, the mistress hurriedly fled. "I didn't think you could stoop so low," I said to Mike. "Our son must be appalled from heaven." Unfazed, Mike chased after her, leaving his parents to face the fallout. "How does it feel to have enjoyed yourselves in Hawaii, relying on my son's life insurance money?" I asked coldly. "Unfortunately for you, I'm the beneficiary. You'll have to pay for your extravagant trip on your own." With no comeback, Mike's parents quickly left. After the funeral, I realized what my mother had meant about removing Mike and his family from our lives. I filed for divorce and sought alimony. It turned out Mike had been cheating on me for 2 years and had planned to abandon me after our son's death, thinking he could avoid responsibilities like child support while benefiting from the life insurance payout. Mike had even exploited my father's dementia, coercing him into signing a fraudulent contract while my mother and I were preoccupied with Ryan's illness. However, he hadn't realized the property belonged to my mother, not my father. In the end, Mike and his parents accrued massive debts. Mike had to pay alimony and cover the cost of their Hawaii trip. His mistress left him, and he was left alone, drowning in financial ruin. Back at my family home, I began to recover from the pain of losing my son. My mother and I continued to care for my father, and I found solace in believing that Ryan was watching over us. One day, my father said something unexpected. "Ryan is visiting. He's running around happily," he murmured. Though startled, I chose to believe that my son's spirit was near, encouraging us to live with strength and positivity. For his sake, I vowed to keep moving forward. Once a woman marries, she's no longer part of the family. Family celebrations are only for family, so leave already. My sister, Amy, said this to me with a sneer, while my mother stood by, telling me to hurry up and go. I had returned to celebrate Amy's coming-of-age ceremony, hoping for some warmth, but my family treated me as an outsider. At that moment, it became painfully clear I was no longer one of them. My chest tightened, but I quickly composed myself. If that's how they feel, there's only one thing I can do: make them regret their words. My name is Sherry, I'm 22 years old, and I've grown accustomed to living on my own. It's been 4 years since I left home after graduating from vocational high school. Life hasn't been easy. I've worked hard to make ends meet. It's not luxurious, but it's the life I chose, and I take pride in supporting myself. Yet, even now, memories from the past linger like shadows. My mother and Amy's actions still weigh on me. The day before my first birthday, my father left us for another woman. My mother never forgave him. Unfortunately, I inherited his features, and because of that, my mother harbored a deep resentment toward me. "You're just like him. Seeing your face makes me sick." As a child, I didn't fully understand her words, but I felt the cold stares, the disdain. To her, I was nothing more than a living reminder of her pain. In the beginning, my grandparents showed me some care, but as my mother leaned on them more and more for financial support, even they began to pull away. By the time I turned 2, my mother had remarried. Soon after, Amy was born, and my mother's new family unit was complete. Without me, I was an outsider. One day, I watched my mother, stepfather, and Amy pack their suitcases. "Where are you going?" I asked. "On vacation," my mother replied curtly. "Can I come too?" "Of course not. We'll drop you off at daycare." Their laughter echoed as they left without me. I was always left behind, sent to a 24-hour daycare while they went on family trips. Each time, I'd watch them leave with smiles on their faces, my heart sinking deeper into loneliness. At home, my mother's rejection became impossible to ignore. I was isolated, invisible to my so-called family. Once, Amy innocently asked my mother, "Why doesn't Sherry get a birthday party?" For a moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe my mother cared, after all. "Celebrate her birthday?" My mother scoffed. "There's nothing to celebrate." Her words cut me to the core. From that day on, Amy's attitude shifted. She began to look down on me, mimicking our mother's disdain. During family celebrations, I was always sidelined. Amy had birthday cakes and parties, while I had nothing, not even a candle to blow out. When I entered high school, I faced yet another blow. My family refused to pay for my education. Attending vocational school and working to support myself felt like an escape. Being outside, earning my keep, was far better than staying in that house. But no matter how hard I tried, home was still the only place I had to return to. My mother never acknowledged my efforts. At 18, I made the hardest decision of my life. I left. I couldn't take it anymore. I craved freedom, a life where I wouldn't feel suffocated sharing space with my mother, stepfather, and Amy. When I finally left, they didn't show a shred of emotion. "Do whatever you want, you're not our problem anymore," my mother said coldly. Those words severed the last fragile bond one had with them. Life on my own wasn't easy. I worked tirelessly to survive, but for the first time, I felt free to live for myself. Yet, even now, at 22, I can't entirely escape their shadow. Memories of my mother and Amy linger, especially with Amy's coming-of-age ceremony approaching. My own ceremony had been non-existent, but I knew Amy's would be lavish, as everything always was for her. One day, I received an unexpected call from my mother. Hearing her voice for the first time in years made my chest tighten. "Amy's 21st birthday is next week. You're not coming, right?" she said bluntly. I was stunned. Why would she even think to call me? I wasn't invited, I managed to reply. "Good. It'd be awkward if you showed up," she said, her words cutting through me like a knife. After the call ended, a weight settled over me. I whispered to myself, of course I wouldn't go, but the suffocating ache in my chest didn't go away. I thought I had moved on, that I'd severed all ties with them, but why did they still have this hold over me? I told myself I wouldn't let them control me anymore, but the past is a stubborn thing, it refuses to let go. Yet, amidst the pain, I felt a faint desire to confront it, to confront them. Especially Amy. Despite everything, I wanted to celebrate her milestone, so I bought a cake and a gift and decided to visit my family for the first time in years. Standing in front of the familiar door, my heart pounded. It had been so long, and I was terrified of what awaited me. When I rang the doorbell, Amy answered. Her voice was sharp and mocking. "Who's there?" "Amy, it's me," I said cautiously. "Stop joking. I brought a cake. Please, open the door." After a moment of silence, the door swung open. Without a word, Amy snatched the cake box from my hands and, to my shock, threw it back at me. The box hit the ground, the cake splattering across the floor. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I can't eat food from a stranger," she sneered. Stranger. The word struck me harder than I expected. Deep down, I had hoped that despite everything, she still saw me as her sister, but hearing her call me a stranger made something inside me break. As I stood frozen, my mother appeared, laughing alongside Amy. "What were you thinking, coming here?" she said, her voice dripping with scorn. "Did you come to ruin things?" Her words stung, and I felt a wave of regret wash over me. "Why is she even here?" My stepfather's voice called out from the living room. "She's not family anymore." My voice trembled as I asked, "Am I not family? Why?" My mother scoffed. "Of course you're not family. We're not even related." Amy laughed, her voice cruel. "Did you really think you were one of us?" Their words crushed me. I had always known I didn't belong, but hearing it said so plainly tore me apart. "Clean up that mess before you leave," my mother barked, gesturing to the ruined cake. Numbly, I obeyed. As I cleaned, Amy and my mother laughed mockingly behind me. "She brought the cake and now she's cleaning it up herself," Amy said, pathetic. Their laughter echoed in my ears, but I focused on finishing as quickly as possible. When I was done, I turned silently to leave. "Leaving already? Should have never come, huh?" Amy taunted. I didn't respond. As I stepped out the door, Amy called out one last time. "Don't come back, stranger." Her words echoed in my mind as the door slammed shut behind me, sealing the final chapter of our relationship. I realized I had been clinging to a false hope that something might change, that somehow, they might see me differently, but I was wrong. I was nothing more than a stranger to them, and maybe I always had been. It was time to stop wasting my energy trying to find a place in their lives. I already had a place where I truly belonged. That place was with my husband, Don. I met Don through a mutual friend, and from the moment he came into my life, everything changed. I had never thought I would get married. I didn't believe I deserved a family of my own, but Don saw me for who I was, accepted me completely, and never judged my complicated family history. When I shared my painful memories with him, he simply listened. "You didn't get to choose your family," he said gently, but none of that is your fault. The family we create together will be your true home. His words warmed my heart, and for the first time, I felt like I truly belonged somewhere. With Dawn, I learned what happiness was. Our life together became my anchor, irreplaceable and full of love. But I had never told my family about him. I didn't want to invite their negativity into our lives. Still, news of my marriage somehow reached them. 3 days after the incident with the cake, my mother called unexpectedly. "I heard you got married. Why didn't you tell us something so important?" Her tone was accusatory, but I remained calm. "I didn't think it was necessary to tell you," I replied. There was a long silence on the other end. "Fine, do whatever you want," she said at last. "You'll end up alone anyway." This time, her words didn't hurt me. I had expected them. Instead, I felt reassured, knowing how happy I was with my new life. I wasn't alone, I had Dawn, and together we were building a family rooted in love and mutual respect. Her bitter remark was meaningless. It couldn't change my happiness. That phone call marked the final break between us. Or so I thought. 3 days later, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. When I opened the door, I was stunned to see Amy standing there. How had she found my address? Still, I invited her in. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my guard immediately up. "I just wanted to see what kind of guy you married," she said with a playful tone that put me on edge. As soon as she entered the living room, her eyes locked on Dawn. "This is your husband? Not bad at all. How did someone like you snag him?" I clenched my fists, anger simmering, but I stayed silent. Dawn, however, remained composed. "I'm Sherry's husband. Please stop with the unnecessary remarks," he said calmly. Amy looked surprised by his directness, but quickly recovered. She stepped closer to Dawn, her smile turning sickly sweet. "Don't be so stiff. Let's have some fun. Sherry won't mind, will she?" I was shocked by her audacity, but Dawn didn't waver. "I'm not interested. My happiness is with my wife," he said firmly. "Please stop this behavior." A wave of gratitude washed over me for Dawn's unwavering loyalty. Amy shrugged, her smile fading into a cold smirk. "Whatever, I don't care about your happiness anyway," she said with a dismissive tone. Her feigned indifference made my next steps clear. "You don't need people like her in your life, Sherry," Dawn said softly after she left. "For your sake, and ours, it's best to cut ties." His words mirrored my own thoughts. Amy and the rest of my family had no place in the life I was building anymore. It was time to let go. That visit was a turning point. For years, I had been sending money to my family. I had paid for Amy's tuition and even helped with the mortgage on their home, all in the hope that they might someday accept me as part of the family. But after Amy's visit, I realized I owed them nothing. They had taken all I had to give and returned only scorn. Now, I chose to give my energy, my love, and my support to the family I was creating with Dawn, a family built on kindness, respect, and unconditional love. It was time to stop looking back and start living fully in the present. I decided it was time to stop the financial support. When I told Dawn, he gave me a warm smile and nodded. "That's the right choice, Sherry. You've done more than enough. Now it's time to focus on yourself." His words lifted a weight I hadn't realized I was still carrying. Cutting off the money felt like reclaiming my freedom. I filed the necessary paperwork and halted the payments. For the first time, I felt a deep sense of relief. But peace didn't last long. A month later, my routine was shattered by loud, angry banging on the door. When I opened it, my mother and Amy stood there, their faces twisted in fury. "Why didn't the tuition payment go through? The landlord is threatening eviction," my mother spat, her tone accusatory. Their outrage didn't surprise me. I had been expecting this confrontation. Taking a deep breath, I responded calmly. "I stopped the payments because I'm no longer responsible for you." Their expressions shifted from anger to shock. "What do you mean you stopped the payments?" Amy demanded. "I even sold the house to recover what I already paid," I added, my voice steady. "What?" My mother's voice rose. "You sold the house? How could you?" "You made it clear I'm not part of your family," I said, meeting their glares head on. "So I have no obligation to support you." "But what about my tuition?" Amy cried. "I can't finish school without it." "That's your responsibility now, not mine," I replied firmly. "I won't fund a family that doesn't include me." "You can't do this. After everything I've done for you," my mother began. "Done for me?" I interrupted, my voice rising for the first time. "You mean the years of neglect and cruelty? I owe you nothing. My decision is final." They tried to argue, their anger quickly turning to desperation, but I stood firm. "You'll regret this," Amy yelled as they left. "You're the worst sister ever." But their words no longer held any power over me. For the first time, I felt truly free from their grasp. A week later, their harassment escalated. They showed up outside my home daily, shouting and causing scenes. They even contacted Dawn's parents in an attempt to shame me. While my in-laws were understanding, they grew concerned. "They've crossed the line," Dawn said one evening. "You need to take action before it gets worse." At first, I hesitated, but I knew he was right. I gathered evidence from our security cameras and filed a police report. Initially, the authorities treated it as a family dispute and were slow to act, but I persisted. Finally, after another disruptive incident, the police intervened. My mother and Amy were warned to stay away, but they ignored the warnings. Their behavior escalated until the police had no choice but to issue formal restraining orders. Even my neighbors, fed up with the constant commotion, supported my case. Some suggested I move to escape the chaos. Don agreed. "Let's start fresh somewhere new," he said. I couldn't have agreed more. Quietly, we found a new home and relocated. Even after the move, my mother and Amy tried to track us down. They even showed up at Dawn's parents' house, but my father-in-law firmly shut them down. "Sherry is part of our family now," he said. "If you have issues, they're your responsibility, not hers." Amy tried pleading with my mother-in-law for help, but she was equally resolute. "You made your bed, now lie in it." Eventually, their efforts failed, and they stopped trying. For the first time in years, I felt free. The harassment had drained me emotionally, but once it ended, life became peaceful again. Dawn and I settled into our new home and focused on building a future together. My in-laws treated me like their own daughter, offering me the warmth and acceptance I had always longed for. "Sherry, your family," they told me one evening, "whatever happens, we'll always be here for you." Their words gave me a sense of security I had never known. Meanwhile, my mother and stepfather's fragile relationship fell apart without my financial support. Eventually, they divorced, and my mother lived a quiet, isolated life. Amy, too, faced the consequences of her actions. A potential marriage fell through when her fiancé learned about her family background and past behavior. Left to fend for herself, Amy struggled to rebuild her life. Despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to pity them. Their actions had led them to this place. In contrast, my life with Dawn flourished. We grew closer with each shared experience, facing challenges and celebrating successes together. "We've been through so much, but look at where we are now," Dawn said one evening as we relaxed in our cozy living room. He took my hand and looked into my eyes. "Let's focus on our future. I want to make you as happy as you make me." His sincerity brought tears to my eyes. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere, with someone who truly cared for me. The shadows of my past no longer loomed over me. Don and his family became the family I had always longed for. Their love and support healed wounds I once thought would never mend. "Family isn't just about blood," Don's father had once told me. "It's about the bonds you choose to nurture." Those words stayed with me. Looking back, I saw my struggles with my mother and Amy as a painful but necessary part of my journey. They had taught me resilience and the value of true family. As Dawn and I moved forward, I knew I had finally found my home, a place filled with love, stability, and a future worth cherishing. Hello, my name is Grace Carter, and I'm 34 years old. Life has been anything but simple for me, but I've always tried to make the best of what I have. For years, I thought I had the perfect life. I was married to a man I deeply loved, Michael, and I had a stepson, Jamie, who I cared for like my own. But life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. Sometimes, the people you trust the most can hurt you the deepest. My story is about betrayal, heartbreak, and finding the strength to stand up for myself. It all started on what I thought was a regular Tuesday afternoon. I had just finished a long day at work, and I was looking forward to a quiet evening at home. I had no idea that my life was about to take a sharp turn. As soon as I walked through the door, I noticed something was off. Michael was standing in the living room, his arms crossed, his face stormy. Jamie was sitting on the couch, looking at the floor, avoiding my gaze. "Grace," Michael said coldly, "we need to talk." His tone made my stomach drop. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Michael's jaw tightened. "Jamie told me what you've been doing behind my back." I blinked in confusion. What are you talking about?" Jamie finally looked up, tears in his eyes. "I saw you, Grace. You were on the phone with someone, laughing and smiling. I heard you say you couldn't wait to meet up with him." My heart sank. Jamie had misunderstood something, but I could see he was genuinely upset. Jamie, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I was talking to Lydia, my best friend, about meeting up for coffee. Michael didn't budge. Do you think I'm an idiot, Grace? Jamie wouldn't lie about something like this. No matter how much I tried to explain, Michael refused to believe me. He was convinced that I had been unfaithful, and nothing I said could change his mind. I can't have someone like you in my house, he finally said, his voice cold and final. Pack your things and leave. I looked at Jamie, hoping he would speak up, but he stayed silent. My heart broke as I realized that the little boy I loved like my own had turned against me. I packed my belongings that night, tears streaming down my face. The home I had worked so hard to make warm and loving felt like a stranger's house now. Michael didn't even look at me as I walked out the door. Jamie stood at the top of the stairs, watching, but he didn't say a word. I spent that night at Lydia's place. She listened as I poured out my heart, offering comfort and reassurance. Grace, she said, you don't deserve this. You've done so much for them, and this is how they repay you? You're better off without them. But I couldn't stop thinking about Jamie. He was just a kid, and I knew he must have been manipulated into believing something that wasn't true. The next few weeks were some of the hardest of my life. I had to find a new place to live, figure out how to move forward, and deal with the emotional pain of losing the family I thought I had. But I also realized something important. I wasn't powerless. I had the strength to start over, to rebuild my life on my own terms. The weeks after I left Michael's house were a whirlwind of emotions. I was hurt, angry, and confused. How could the man I had loved for years believe such a terrible lie? And why would Jamie, my sweet stepson, say something so damaging? I tried to focus on rebuilding my life. I moved into a small apartment, just enough for me to feel safe and have a fresh start. But no matter how hard I tried to move on, the questions kept haunting me. I knew I needed answers. One day, while grocery shopping, I ran into an old neighbor, Mrs. Linton. She was a kind, elderly woman who had always been friendly to me. When she saw me, her eyes lit up, but there was also a hint of concern. Grace, dear, she said, how are you doing? I was so shocked to hear about what happened. Her words caught me off guard. You know about it? I asked cautiously. Oh, yes, she said, leaning in closer. Jamie was telling my grandson about how he had to tell his father the truth. He said you were planning to leave them for someone else. My heart sank. Jamie was spreading the lie? But why? Mrs. Linton, I said, my voice trembling. Did he say anything else? She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. He mentioned how much he hated that you were always trying to discipline him. Said he wanted things to go back to how they were before you came into their lives. Her words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Jamie wasn't just misled, he had a motive. I went home and thought about what Mrs. Linton had said. Memories started to flood back. Jamie's reluctance to listen to me, his occasional outbursts about wanting his dad to himself, and the way he always seemed to cling to Michael whenever I tried to enforce rules. It all made sense now. Jamie had been struggling to accept me as a parental figure, and this lie was his way of trying to push me out of their lives. But why would Michael believe him so easily? That question still gnawed at me. I decided to confide in Lydia, my best friend. Over coffee, I told her everything Mrs. Linton had said. Lydia listened intently, her brow furrowed. Grace, this isn't just about Jamie. Michael should have trusted you enough to hear your side of the story. I know, I said, sighing, but he didn't even give me a chance. He just threw me out like I was nothing. Lydia's eyes narrowed. Then it's time to find out why. If Michael was so quick to believe Jamie, there might be more to this story. With Lydia's encouragement, I started digging deeper. I reached out to mutual friends, neighbors, and even one of Michael's coworkers. The more I learned, the clearer the picture became. Apparently, Michael had been feeling pressured at work, and his relationship with Jamie had become strained because of my efforts to establish boundaries. Jamie had seen this tension and used it to his advantage, telling Michael exactly what he wanted to hear, that I was the problem. But there was something else, something I hadn't expected. One of Michael's coworkers mentioned that he had overheard Michael talking about regretting certain decisions. What kind of decisions? I asked, my heart pounding. The coworker shrugged. He didn't say much, but he seemed conflicted, like he knew he'd made a mistake. Just when I thought I was starting to understand the situation, I received a text message from Michael. It was short but surprising. Grace, I need to talk to you. Please meet me at the cafe near your old office. I stared at the message, unsure of what to do. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but another part, an angry, determined part, wanted answers. I texted back, agreeing to meet him the next day. When I arrived at the cafe, Michael was already there, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen him. He stood up when he saw me, but I stayed where I was, crossing my arms. "What do you want, Michael?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. He looked down at the table, then back up at me. "Grace, I think I made a mistake." "Oh, you think?" I said, unable to hide the bitterness in my tone. "You kicked me out without even listening to my side of the story. What do you expect me to say?" Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. I was under a lot of pressure. "And Jamie, he seemed so convincing. But now, I'm starting to realize that maybe I was wrong." Hearing his words gave me a small sense of satisfaction, but it wasn't enough. "You didn't just make a mistake, Michael," I said firmly. "You betrayed me. You chose to believe a child's lie over your wife's honesty." Michael looked genuinely remorseful, but I wasn't ready to forgive him. "Not yet. I need time to think about this," I said, standing up. "But don't think for a second that you can just apologize and make everything okay. You need to prove to me that you're willing to change." As I walked out of the cafe, I felt a surge of strength. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was taking control of my life. The meeting with Michael lingered in my mind, but I refused to let it control my emotions. I had given him a chance to speak, but his words were far from enough to erase the damage he'd done. If he wanted me to consider his apology, he'd have to earn it, and I wasn't about to make it easy. A week after the cafe meeting, I was surprised to find Jamie standing outside my apartment door. He looked nervous, clutching his backpack and shifting from foot to foot. "Jamie?" I asked, confused. "What are you doing here?" I need to talk to you," he said, his voice trembling. I hesitated, unsure if I was ready to face him, but something about the way he looked, guilty, vulnerable, made me step aside and let him in. As soon as the door closed, Jamie burst into tears. "I'm sorry, Grace," he sobbed. "I didn't mean for everything to get so bad. I just wanted Dad to spend more time with me." I led Jamie to the couch and sat down beside him, trying to process his words. "Jamie, you need to explain. Why did you lie about me?" Through his tears, Jamie confessed everything. He admitted that he had felt jealous of the time Michael and I spent together and resented the rules I had set for him. When he realized how much Michael trusted him, he saw an opportunity to get me out of the house. "I thought if you were gone, things would go back to the way they were," he said, his voice cracking, "but it didn't. Dad's been so angry and sad, and I feel awful. I didn't think it would turn out like this." Hearing Jamie's confession was heartbreaking. I wanted to be angry, but looking at him, all I saw was a child who had made a terrible mistake out of fear and insecurity. "Jamie," I said gently, "do you understand how much pain you caused? You didn't just hurt me, you hurt your dad, too. Families are supposed to support each other, not tear each other apart." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I know. I'm so sorry, Grace. I'll do anything to fix it. Please don't hate me." I sighed, my heart heavy. "I don't hate you, Jamie, but fixing this won't be easy. You need to tell your dad the truth." The next evening, Jamie asked me to come with him to Michael's house so he could confess. I agreed, though the thought of stepping back into that house made my stomach churn. When we arrived, Michael looked surprised and wary to see me. Before he could say anything, Jamie stepped forward. "Dad, I need to tell you something," he said, his voice trembling. "I lied about Grace. She didn't do any of the things I said she did. I made it all up because I wanted her to leave." Michael's face went pale. "Jamie, what are you talking about?" "I was jealous," Jamie admitted, tears welling up in his eyes again. "I thought if Grace was gone, things would be better, but I was wrong. I'm so sorry, Dad." Michael turned to me, his eyes filled with guilt and shame. "Grace, I don't know what to say. I can't believe I let this happen. I'm so sorry for everything." I crossed my arms, keeping my expression neutral. "Michael, Jamie's owning up to his mistake, but what about you? You didn't just believe his lie, you acted on it without giving me a chance to explain. Do you have any idea how much that hurt?" Michael nodded, his voice breaking. "I do, and I'll never forgive myself for it. I was so caught up in everything else that I didn't stop to think. I let you down, and I let Jamie down, too." While their apologies were a step in the right direction, I wasn't ready to let go of all the pain just yet. "This isn't something we can fix overnight," I said firmly. "It's going to take time and effort from both of you to rebuild the trust that was broken." Michael nodded eagerly. "I'll do whatever it takes, Grace. I mean it. I just want a chance to make things right." Jamie looked at me, his eyes filled with hope. "Me too, Grace. I promise I'll do better. I laid out my conditions clearly. If Michael and Jamie wanted to repair our relationship, they needed to commit to open communication and mutual respect. For Jamie, that meant accepting me as part of the family and following the rules we set together. For Michael, it meant proving that he valued our marriage enough to stand by me, even when things got tough. They both agreed, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope, but I knew this was just the beginning. As I left Michael's house that night, I felt a mix of emotions: relief, cautious optimism, and a lingering sadness for what had been lost. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to walk it on my own terms. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions and tentative steps toward rebuilding what had been broken. I wasn't ready to jump back into my marriage, but I also didn't want to shut the door on it completely. The key to moving forward was making sure that both Michael and Jamie understood the depth of the hurt they had caused, and the work needed to mend it. Michael called me every evening, updating me on his efforts to create a better environment at home. He'd started attending a parenting workshop to learn how to communicate more effectively with Jamie, and he'd also begun therapy to address his own impulsiveness and inability to listen. "Grace, I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said during one of our calls. "I know I failed you, and I can't expect you to forgive me overnight, but I promise, I'm committed to doing better, for you and for Jamie." It was clear that Michael was taking my words seriously, but I needed more than promises. Actions speak louder than words, and I was determined to see real, lasting changes before I considered taking him back. Jamie's transformation was equally important. He began attending counseling sessions with a child therapist, who helped him work through his feelings of jealousy and insecurity. He also wrote me a heartfelt letter, apologizing again for his behavior and promising to make amends. In one particularly touching moment, Jamie asked if we could start over. "I want to be a better stepson, Grace," he said, his voice earnest. "I know I messed up, but I want us to be a family again." I smiled, touched by his sincerity. "We'll get there, Jamie, but it's going to take time and effort from both of us." While Michael and Jamie worked on themselves, I focused on my own healing. I threw myself into my work, taking on new projects and even starting a side business that I'd always dreamed of pursuing. The independence I gained during those weeks was empowering, and it reminded me that my worth wasn't tied to anyone else's opinion or actions. I also reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. They reminded me of who I was before the chaos, and their support was invaluable as I navigated this difficult chapter of my life. After about 2 months, Michael asked if we could meet again, this time as a family. He wanted Jamie to be part of the conversation, so we could all discuss how to move forward together. I agreed, though I made it clear that this wasn't an invitation to pick up where we left off. "This is about setting expectations and boundaries," I told him. "If we're going to make this work, it has to be on solid ground." We met at a neutral location, a cozy park with a small cafe nearby. Michael had brought a notebook filled with ideas for improving our family dynamics, and Jamie had written down some goals for himself as well. "Grace," Michael began, "I know I've said this before, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry for everything. I've been working hard to become a better husband and father, and I hope you can see that." Jamie chimed in, his voice steady. "I've been working on myself too, Grace. I know I have a lot to prove, but I want you to know that I'm serious about being better." I listened carefully, taking in their words and the sincerity behind them. Then I shared my own perspective, emphasizing the importance of respect, trust, and open communication moving forward. By the end of the meeting, we had come to an agreement. We would take things one step at a time, focusing on rebuilding trust and strengthening our relationships. Michael and Jamie would continue their therapy sessions, and I would maintain my independence while giving our family dynamic a chance to heal. We hugged at the end of the conversation, a tentative but hopeful sign of the progress we'd made. The journey had been anything but easy, but it taught me valuable lessons about resilience, self-worth, and the power of forgiveness. While the pain of betrayal still lingered, I chose to focus on the growth that had come from it. In the weeks that followed, I noticed real changes in both Michael and Jamie. They were more communicative, more respectful, and more committed to making our family work. Though the road ahead was still uncertain, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Whether or not our family fully healed, I knew I had done everything in my power to create a better future, for myself and for those around me. Because in the end, healing isn't just about mending relationships, it's about finding strength within yourself to move forward, no matter what lies ahead. My name is Layla, a 28-year-old housewife. My husband, Tom, works for a company, and we recently welcomed our long-awaited child, a beautiful baby girl named Elena. Our little family of 3 feels complete. Elena is so adorable that I could spend hours just staring at her. She looks just like you did when you were little, Layla, my mom often says. Seeing Elena brings back so many memories for her. Today, I invited my parents over to meet Elena for the first time. Tom, have your parents met her yet? I asked during breakfast. Tom hesitated before replying. No, they haven't. My parents aren't fond of children. They only had me because of societal expectations, and they made it clear they didn't want more kids. They're not interested in meeting Elena either. When I told them about her, they said not to bring her until she's an adult. Can you believe that? I was stunned. That's hard to imagine. I've met your parents a few times, and they didn't seem like the type. Is it really possible to dislike children so much that they wouldn't want to see their own grandchild? I'll send them a picture, Tom said, sighing. Maybe it'll change their minds. I'll keep trying to convince them to meet her. True to his word, Tom sent his parents a photo of Elena, but their response was lukewarm at best. As the months passed, Tom's efforts to persuade them continued, with little success. It's been almost 10 months since Elena was born, I said one evening. Have your parents changed their minds? Tom shook his head sadly. No, they're still against meeting her. I've tried everything, but they won't reconsider. I feel like a terrible dad for not being able to bring my parents around. I took his hand in mine. Tom, you're not a bad dad. Elena and I see how hard you're trying, and we love you for it. Right, Elena? I smiled at our baby, who was peacefully napping in her crib. Thanks, Layla, he said, his voice soft. I'll keep trying. While I admired Tom's persistence, I was growing tired of trying to cheer him up. If his parents didn't want to meet Elena, I was ready to accept it and move on, but I didn't have the heart to say that out loud, knowing how much it mattered to him. And what if Elena asked one day why she never met her grandparents? How could I explain their indifference to her? As Elena's first birthday approached, something unexpected happened, a phone call from my in-laws. Layla, it's been a while, Tom's mother began. Yes, it has. How are you? I replied cautiously. We're well. How is the baby? She asked. Her sudden interest in Elena caught me off guard. She's doing great, I said. Layla, did we do something to upset you? She asked hesitantly. No, not at all, I replied, confused. Other than not wanting to meet your granddaughter, everything has been fine. Then why haven't you let us meet her? She asked, her voice breaking. If it's hard for you to come here, we can come to you, or we can meet somewhere neutral, like a restaurant. Please, just let us see her, even if it's only once. I was shocked. You're saying, you want to meet her? Of course we do, she said, her voice trembling. Your father and I have been waiting to meet our first grandchild. We'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. Please, Layla. Her words left me speechless. Hadn't Tom told me they didn't want to meet Elena? I explained what Tom had said to me, and my mother-in-law sounded equally surprised. Just then, my mom, who was helping with Elena, overheard the conversation and suggested I hand her the phone. Hello, this is Layla's mom. It's been a while, she said warmly. As the two mothers began talking, Elena started crying. I held her close, my mind spinning with questions. Why had Tom told me they didn't want to meet Elena? And how would this revelation change things for our family? As Elena began to cry, I stepped away to comfort her. When I returned, it seemed like the moms, my mother and mother-in-law, had reached some sort of agreement. They told me they had come up with a plan but insisted I keep it a secret from Tom until everything was carried out. A few days later, on Tom's day off, my parents came over for a small family get-together. Elena just keeps getting cuter, doesn't she? My mom said, smiling as Elena babbled away. She's getting so good at talking too, my dad added. She's so smart, I agreed, holding Elena on my lap. It's hard to believe Tom's parents don't want to meet such an adorable granddaughter. They never liked kids to begin with, my mom replied, but Tom has been working really hard to change their minds. Good for him. Ever since I discovered that Tom had been lying to both me and my parents, I'd started doubting everything he said. It was frustrating, to say the least, but today, it was all going to come to light. The atmosphere seemed cheerful, but I could feel the tension bubbling under the surface. Everyone was nervous, waiting for the big moment. What are we waiting for? Tom asked, oblivious to what was about to happen. Just then, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to see Tom's parents standing there. Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? Tom stammered, his face turning pale. We're here to meet our granddaughter, of course, his mother said firmly. Hurry and bring her out. But first, we need to wash our hands. Where's the bathroom? Tom looked flustered, clearly caught off guard. For almost a year, he had been lying to everyone, and now his deceit was about to unravel. I decided to play along. When did they change their minds? I asked innocently. They seem really eager to meet her now. Well, yeah, Tom muttered, avoiding eye contact. I've been talking to them, and I finally convinced them to meet her. Nice try, Tom, his mother said sharply, but we know the truth. No matter what excuses you come up with, we're meeting our granddaughter today. After washing their hands, Tom's parents approached me with warm smiles. They were playing their part perfectly, pretending they didn't know the full extent of Tom's deception. I never said you couldn't meet her, I said, feigning confusion. What's going on? Why the sudden visit? What are you talking about? His father interjected. We've been wanting to meet her for so long, isn't that right? At that moment, my parents walked in with Elena, who had been in the other room. There she is, my mother-in-law exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. Oh my goodness, what an adorable angel. Is this really our granddaughter? Elena smiled, giggling as she reached for her grandparents. She's such a sweetheart, I said, handing her to them. I'm glad you finally got to meet her. Now we can all talk. Tom looked cornered. What's going on here? I asked, turning to him. Why did you lie to both sides to keep them from meeting Elena? You owe us all an explanation. It was then that Tom's true motives came to light. He had been worried about the inheritance. As an only child, he had assumed everything would go to him. But after Elena was born, he realized she would have rights to a share. In his desperation to secure it all for himself, he had concocted a plan to prevent his parents from forming a bond with Elena. You've been thinking about inheritance when your parents are still alive? I said, appalled. You kept them from their granddaughter for a year, because of money? That's beyond selfish, Tom stammered. No, it's not like that. I was just following advice from my boss. Enough, his mother interrupted. Thanks to your efforts, we're going straight to a lawyer to make sure everything goes to Elena. While you're at it, I added, don't forget another document you'll need to sign, the divorce papers. Tom froze. Layla, no. Please don't do this. I can't stay married to someone who lies to everyone around him. It's only a matter of time before you try to manipulate Elena too. I'm done. Mom, Dad, Tom pleaded, will you still see Elena if Layla divorces me? Of course, his mother said coldly. We're cutting ties with you, not our granddaughter. You've made your bed, Tom. As I gathered Elena and prepared to leave, Tom's parents reiterated their plans. We'll make sure our estate is handled properly, his father said. And don't worry, Layla. Elena will always have us in her corner. With that, I walked out, leaving behind the home I had shared with Tom. It was no longer a place of trust or love, just a reminder of the lies that had nearly torn our family apart. After deciding to leave Tom behind, I packed up my things and returned to my parents' house. You're welcome to come too, Mom and Dad, I told them. We're getting everything ready to celebrate Elena's birthday there. Tom, left alone, pleaded desperately, wait. Don't leave me here by myself, but his cries fell on deaf ears as we headed to my parents' place. Shortly after, I finalized the divorce and secured full custody of Elena, along with child support. Tom didn't take it well. Angry at his boss for planting selfish ideas in his head, he caused trouble at work, which eventually led to him losing his job. He struggled to manage housework and daily life, often turning to his parents for help. However, they completely ignored his pleas, fed up with his behavior. I've heard they're even planning to sell their home and move far away, ensuring Tom won't find them. Back at my parents' house, I've been raising Elena with their unwavering support. I managed to land a full-time job, and life has been looking up. Today is Elena's second birthday, and we're throwing a party to celebrate this precious milestone. As friends and family gathered, I stood up to make a toast. Thank you all for coming to celebrate with us today. If I may, I'd like to propose a toast. Everyone raised their glasses. Cheers, Elena beamed and, in her tiny voice, joined in. Cheers, wait, one of my relatives said with a laugh. She's only 2, right? I've never seen a 2-year-old say something like that so confidently. Neither have I, added another. Elena loves saying cheers, my mom chimed in. She practiced with Layla yesterday and did great. Surrounded by love, Elena is growing into a bright, happy little girl, a true treasure to everyone around her. As I reflect on how far we've come, I feel nothing but gratitude for the love and support that surrounds us. The future feels full of possibilities, and I'm excited to see what's next in our journey. I arrived home, greeted by warmth and celebration. Welcome back. Jel will be bringing her fiancé soon, my mom said. Jel is getting married? I said, still processing the news. It doesn't feel real. That day, my sister Jel came home to announce her engagement. I also decided to visit my parents, eager to share my own exciting news. Jel's getting married, and now I'm going to be a mom too. So many happy events. I exclaimed. It's been such a whirlwind, Jel said. By the way, I heard you left your new job. Was something wrong? It's a long story, I admitted. I didn't want to worry you, and I thought everything was resolved once I married Peter. Jel's fiancé, Josh, entered the room. Hi, I'm Josh, Jel's fiancé, he introduced himself. Nice to meet you, I said, smiling. Oh, you're Josh? You're younger than I expected. Don't be so nervous, everything's going to be fine. Despite my reassurances, Josh seemed uneasy. When's the wedding? I asked. Well, we haven't set a date yet, Jel replied. We need to coordinate it with your due date, now that we know you're pregnant. Josh's face turned even paler. Oh, I didn't realize, he stammered. Congratulations. Something about Josh's nervous demeanor unsettled me. He reminded me of someone from my past, though I couldn't place it immediately. The wedding day. The day of Jel's wedding arrived, filled with joy for some and anxiety for me. As I got up to use the restroom, supporting my heavy belly, my phone rang. Hello? I answered. The voice on the other end sent chills down my spine. Have you forgotten the name of the man you betrayed? John hissed. You and your unborn child should just disappear, you con artist. Before I could respond, I felt a violent shove from behind. I barely managed to grab the handrail, avoiding a fall down the stairs. I spun around to see Jel's future mother-in-law glaring at me. You've trampled on Josh's feelings, and you won't get away with it, she shouted, lunging at me again. Stop. Peter, my husband, appeared and restrained her. As chaos erupted, John emerged from the shadows. So, you're still alive, he sneered. You think you can cover your tracks by marrying that thug and having his kid? I'll make sure neither of you survives. John picked up an ashtray and aimed it at me, but Peter swiftly disarmed him, pinning him to the ground. The wedding descended into turmoil. An emergency meeting was called, where John, his mother, Josh, and our families gathered in a tense room. I'm so sorry, Josh began, his voice trembling. But John slammed his fist on the table. Why are you apologizing? The one at fault here is her. He pointed at me, spouting delusional accusations. You promised to marry me, John ranted, but instead, you betrayed me and got pregnant by that thug. Peter calmly replied, enough. Your lies won't hold up. We have proof of your attempted murder. What proof? John scoffed. Jel stepped forward, holding a camera. Actually, we recorded everything. This footage shows your mother pushing Emma down the stairs. John and his mother went pale. We've already called the police, Peter added. Aftermath. John and his mother were arrested and later faced charges for attempted murder. Josh, who had been manipulated by his family for years, cut ties with them. He later visited us, tearfully apologizing for their actions. Meanwhile, Jel and I moved forward with our lives. I gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and Jel remained optimistic about her future. Though the ordeal left scars, our family grew stronger, united by love and resilience. When my relatives saw the beautifully arranged quality meat courses delivered, they all exclaimed, "Wow, that looks delicious. This is so fancy." But in front of me, there was only a solitary cup of tea. My mother-in-law peeked out from behind the door, grinning in a sly, almost childish way. How typical, I thought. Even today, she couldn't resist trying to torment me. I blurted out, "It's been so long since the family got together. Delicious food should be enjoyed by everyone in the family, right?" But her food grudges were legendary, and I decided it was time to teach her a lesson. My name is Sarah, I'm 35 years old, and I work in an office. I live with my husband, Jake, who is the youngest of 3 brothers. Jake is kind, easygoing, and we've been married for 5 years. We don't have kids yet, but I've recently started trying to get pregnant. Every time I see my mother-in-law, she pesters me with, "Still no grandkids?" I've been carefully watching my sleep, nutrition, and timing, but there's one thing holding me back. I'll likely need her help if I have a child. She's almost 66, divorced, and living alone, but she's still active and works part-time. Despite that, it's clear she despises me. To her, I'm the woman who stole her precious youngest son. Once, when Jake and I visited her, he stepped away to use the bathroom. The moment he left, she shot me a sharp look and said, "Sarah, hasn't Jake gained weight?" I shook my head. "I don't think so." "Oh, he definitely has. It's your duty to keep your husband healthy. If he gains weight, he'll get sick." "What are you feeding him? Greasy junk food?" I was dumbfounded. I try to prepare balanced meals, and besides, I can't control what Jake eats at work or when he's out with friends. Maybe it would be more effective to mention this to him directly, I said, trying to stay calm. "What? That would hurt his feelings. It's your job to look after him." I sighed inwardly. Do I really have to babysit a grown man? When Jake returned, I asked him outright, "Honey, have you gained weight recently?" "Huh? No, actually, I've lost a little," he said. The air froze. My mother-in-law's face turned pale as she snapped, "Lost weight? Sarah, are you starving him?" She suddenly flipped her accusation, claiming I wasn't feeding him enough. Jake looked bewildered. "Mom, that's not true. Everything's fine." But she was relentless. "If people start gossiping that you're a terrible wife because Jake looks too skinny, it'll be your fault." Sarah. I was speechless. Whether Jake gains or loses weight, I'm the one getting blamed. The tea-only dinners. Visiting her house for dinner is no better. She insists we come over often, so we do, mostly out of politeness. She serves beautifully plated seasonal dishes, fresh raw fish, seasonal vegetables, warm corn soup, and fried rice. Everyone is served, except me. All I get is a cup of tea. Once, I tried to clarify. I didn't say I wasn't hungry." "Oh, but you said you didn't want anything, didn't you?" she said, feigning innocence. "I didn't say that." "Well, sorry, I must have misunderstood. You know, I'm just an old lady." At first, I believed her, but the pattern repeated every time. She'd apologize with her classic line, "I'm just a forgetful old woman," leaving me unable to call her out without looking petty. Finally, I had enough. After being served only tea for the 3rd time, I stood up. "Let me help you, Mom," I said, heading to the kitchen. I served myself some rice and soup and then sat down, grabbing a few side dishes from Jake's plate. She frowned. "Sarah, I told you to stay out of the kitchen, and now you're taking your husband's food?" I smiled sweetly. "Your cooking is just so delicious." I couldn't resist. Jake looked uncomfortable, but finally spoke up. "Come on, Mom, this isn't like you. There's no reason to give Sarah a hard time." "Oh, no, it's not like that," she stammered. "It was just an old habit. I must have miscounted." Her excuse was weak, and I was now sure her actions were deliberate. Turning the tables, the next time we visited, she prepared chicken and eggs for the main course, foods I couldn't eat because of allergies. When I stared at my cup of tea, wondering what to do, Jake stepped in. "Mom, you remember Sarah can't eat chicken and eggs, right? Did you make something else for her?" Caught off guard, she stammered. "Oh, of course, I thought I'd order takeout for her." "Sarah, pick whatever you'd like." I smiled. "Thank you, I'll have fries." Her face twitched, but she couldn't back out. When the fries arrived late, I savored them, ignoring her displeasure. Small victories like these remind me to stay resilient. One day, I'll do more than just hold my ground. I'll teach her that respect goes both ways. I slightly regretted ordering fries. I knew my mother-in-law wouldn't let it slide and would probably make some snide comment like, "Fries are for children." I also decided not to mention that I could eat eggs as long as they weren't raw. There was no point in giving her ammunition. The petty battle between us continued. Once, I proudly brought over some homemade dishes under the guise of sharing. I prepared seasoned rice and simmered vegetables, packing them neatly in a container. I thought, if there's no meal for me, at least I can eat this. But my mother-in-law was one step ahead. "Why did you bring something so dirty?" she asked, frowning in exaggerated disgust. "Dirty?" I was taken aback. "The rice and vegetables, everything's brown. You should think about presentation," she sneered. sounding like a self-proclaimed aristocrat. But it's delicious, I countered. I came up with the recipe myself. You really have no taste, she said bluntly, so careless and no sense of refinement at all. For some reason, this time she didn't hold back and insulted me outright. Then, as if to add insult to injury, she picked up my container and dumped its contents into the trash. It had gone bad, she said with a dismissive wave. My anger boiled over. That's not possible. At that moment, Jake walked in. What's going on? Why are you shouting? My mother-in-law's fierce expression instantly morphed into a sweet smile. Oh, Sarah's cooking had gone bad, so I threw it out. Jake frowned. That's too bad, it's usually so tasty. Tasty? That brown food? She muttered under her breath. I was livid. Wasting food is something I simply cannot forgive. That day, as usual, I had only tea. I drank it down defiantly while my mother-in-law smirked, clearly enjoying my frustration. A festive family gathering. A week later, we all gathered for my niece's birthday. Jake's 3 brothers, their families, and several relatives we hadn't seen since our wedding were there. The atmosphere was lively, with laughter and chatter filling the air. The tables were pushed together in the recreation room, creating a long banquet setup. My mother-in-law spared no expense for the occasion. The table was lavishly set with appetizers, soup, salad, steak, mashed potatoes, and desserts, all restaurant-quality dishes. Everyone marveled at the spread, exclaiming, "Wow, this looks amazing, and so luxurious." Pleased with the praise, my mother-in-law said, I indulged, because it's been so long since the whole family got together. Let's enjoy these delicious dishes together. But at my seat, as always, there was only tea. My mother-in-law peeked out from behind a sliding door, smirking at me. Even on such a joyous occasion, she found a way to torment me. I felt conflicted. If I pointed out the lack of food at my place, the relatives, unaware of her antics, might offer to share their dishes, which would only give her an excuse to say, "Oh, I must have forgotten, silly me," and then, she'd likely whisper behind my back, "Sarah's so greedy." As I sipped my tea, anger bubbled inside me. I wanted her to admit her pettiness and apologize. Instead, she continued smirking, relishing my discomfort. Finally, I stood up. "Thank you for the meal. It seems I'm not considered family, so I'll be leaving now. Please, everyone, enjoy yourselves." The room fell silent. The relatives exchanged confused glances, whispering to each other. "What's going on? Is something wrong?" someone asked. Feigning innocence, my mother-in-law tilted her head. "Oh my, what's the matter, Sarah?" "There's no meal for me," I said plainly. Her face shifted to mock surprise. "Oh, dear, what should we do? How careless of me." "Come on, what are you talking about? You knew exactly what you were doing," I said, my voice cold. Calmly, she walked over with a tray. "Here it is, I just forgot to put it at your seat. No need to make such a fuss," she said with a smug smile. I looked down at the tray, and my stomach sank. It wasn't the steak and sides everyone else had. Instead, it was filled with egg salad, thick omelets, and pudding, all things I couldn't eat due to my egg allergy. My hands trembled. This was deliberate. Jake noticed and stepped in. "Mother, this is terrible. You know Sarah's allergic to eggs." Feigning shock, she gasped, "Oh my, I didn't order this. Could the restaurant have made a mistake?" I was seething but kept my composure. At that moment, my niece peeked at the egg-filled tray and exclaimed, "Can I have some?" The children at the table, not too fond of rare steak, eagerly traded their meat courses for the egg dishes. Now, in front of me was a plate of perfectly cooked steak and sides. "Well, then," I said with a smile, picking up my knife and fork, "thank you for the food." Before I could take a bite, my mother-in-law interjected, "Hold on, you must not know this, so let me teach you. Normally, daughters-in-law only eat the appetizers." Her words echoed through the room. I froze, my knife and fork still in hand. Finally, she had revealed her true colors. Taking advantage of the silence, she snatched the meat courses away from me and scolded, "And you shouldn't give your food to the children. They need to eat everything, including their steaks." Her malicious smile sent chills down my spine. The other daughters-in-law exchanged uneasy glances and began to apologize. "I'm sorry for eating the steak, even though I'm just the daughter-in-law. I'm sorry for drinking the soup, even though I'm just the daughter-in-law. And I'm sorry for eating the mashed potatoes, even though I'm just the daughter-in-law." The sight of them apologizing one after another shook the room. No, that's not what I meant," my mother-in-law stammered. "When I said daughter-in-law, I meant Sarah." The daughters-in-law looked at her coldly. We're daughters-in-law too. Does that mean we're not recognized as family either? My mother-in-law's face flushed as she struggled to explain. I took a deep breath and addressed the room. Mother always serves me tea, nothing else, every single time we visit. It's because I'm not considered part of the family, but treating me like this, knowing I have an egg allergy, that's too much. The relatives began murmuring in disapproval. My mother-in-law's carefully crafted image started to crumble as she tried, and failed, to come up with an excuse. Oh, I completely forgot about your allergy, Sarah. I could have sworn you liked eggs, but maybe I was mistaken, my mother-in-law stammered, her tone full of false innocence. But you just said you didn't order this, didn't you? I replied sharply, my frustration bubbling over. Did I say that? Did I really? She mumbled, her web of lies beginning to unravel. You did this on purpose, didn't you? You've always been like this. My husband, Jake, interjected, his voice cold and steady. The accusation made her visibly pale. Stop it, Mom, this isn't right, Jake continued, his disappointment evident. It's not like that at all, she cried, desperately trying to deny her actions, but it was too late. The truth hung heavy in the room. So, you never really considered Sarah part of the family, Jake said, his voice, though calm, carried a weight that silenced everyone. Then I guess I'm not family either. Sorry for thinking I was all this time. Her face crumpled as her sons exchanged incredulous glances. Jake's brothers chimed in. Mom, what's going on? Are you harassing Sarah like this? One of them asked. No, it's just Sarah, she blurted out, a slip of the tongue that exposed her true intentions. Her panic was palpable. The relatives, sensing the shift in tone, began finishing their meals and quietly leaving the table. The daughters-in-law, one by one, placed money on the table as if signaling their resignation from the farce. My mother-in-law's demeanor crumbled further. I didn't mean for it to come out that way, she stammered, her voice trembling, but the damage was done. The egg courses sat untouched before me, their presence a silent reminder of her petty cruelty. I glanced at them, then at Jake, who gave me a small nod. I picked up my fork. This is delicious, I declared after taking a bite. The aroma of the omelet is irresistible. My voice was light, but my words carried weight. Sarah, stop eating that, my mother-in-law shrieked, trying to snatch the plate away. Jake grabbed her arm, his voice firm. Mom, you need to apologize for everything. If it wasn't Sarah, it could have been someone else, and they might not have stayed as strong. Her bitterness twisted her face, and she finally snapped. Yes, I knew about her allergy. I didn't like her. She took my last son away from me. The room fell silent, her confession echoing loudly. I wasn't ready to let him go, she continued, her voice cracking. I wanted him to stay here, with me, where I could take care of him. Jake's expression darkened. Mom, I'm 40 years old. What did you expect? For me to live here until I was 50, 60? Her protest was feeble, and any sympathy she might have garnered evaporated. The conversation was interrupted by a cheerful voice at the door. It was the delivery man, here to collect the trays. Oh, I didn't realize this was your house, he said to me, surprised. I thought it was just another delivery. I smiled politely. It's my in-laws' house, but I recognized your restaurant's dishes right away from the taste. I've been a frequent customer. My mother-in-law's confusion grew as she listened. Wait, what do you mean? She asked, her voice faltering. I said, meeting her gaze. I've been stopping by his restaurant because you never prepare food for me. The delivery man, oblivious to the tension, chuckled. Oh, so this is the famous mother-in-law I've heard about, the one who forgets her daughter-in-law's meals. Her face turned ashen. That's enough, she snapped, trying to shut the door on him, but the damage was already done. Jake sighed, looking at her with a mix of disappointment and resolve. Mom, you've always wanted us to come over, but I think it's best if we don't visit anymore. Don't say that, she cried, her voice desperate. Just come, even if it's only you. Jake shook his head. No, Mom, my wife is my family, and if she's not welcome, neither am I. Her protests faded into silence as we left the house together. From that day forward, Jake's brothers and their wives also began to distance themselves. It turned out they'd been mistreated in similar ways, but had remained silent out of fear or resignation. Despite her attempts to contact Jake secretly, he stood firm. Mom, I don't need your cooking anymore, and I won't be coming back for a while, he told her. Over time, the bonds between her and her family frayed, her actions leaving her isolated. Meanwhile, Jake and I looked forward to a brighter, Happier chapter, one built on mutual respect, love, and, of course, delicious meals shared as a family.